After the acceptance letter arrived, I learned that my childhood sweetheart had taken the college entrance exam behind my back, while I, as agreed, did not pursue further education. At the banquet, he, unusually, explained in a low voice, "I didn't mean to hide it from you. You were already preparing to focus on retaking the exam. I confessed that it would disrupt your morale." Around him were other wealthy children like himself, laughing and waiting. Watching me as embarrassed and awkward as usual, I smiled, gently tugged at his sleeve, and coquettishly whispered, "Then, how about you help me get back into the honors class for the retake? I know you can definitely do it. You're so amazing. Help me with this little thing." Okay. A month later, I was in the honors class. Later, my childhood sweetheart invited me to a university with anticipation. "Okay, I've prepared a surprise for you," he said, embracing the top national scorer. I lazily asked, "What surprise? Tell me about it." After the acceptance letter arrived, I received a text message saying that a banquet was being held at the Central Building's banquet hall to celebrate Andrew's acceptance into university. "That nouveau riche follower of yours really didn't take the college entrance exam. He's an idiot. He actually listened to you. Ha ha ha, you have no idea how hard Lily is simping for Shin-yu. Don't even mention not taking the exam. She would herself to another man without hesitation. So now that Shin-yu got into a university, what's he going to do? He'll do whatever needs to be done." Andrew scoffed. "She's easy to coax. I don't even need to give her money. A few sweet words will do. Remember, when looking for someone to play with, find someone who's needy, not materialistic, willing to be subservient, and most importantly, easy to coax." A group of people burst into laughter, all complimenting, "That is Andrew for you." His girlfriend said, "Ah." I stood outside, listening calmly, until someone pushed me. "Oh, isn't this Lily? What are you doing standing here like an idiot? Shin-yu is punishing you again. You're really stupid. You can't even be a good simp." I stumbled and hit the wall, only then realizing that my whole body was tense and sore. "What are you looking at? Hurry up and go in." The person dismissively curled their lips, pushed open the door to the private room, and immediately changed their tone. "You shall. It's no fun making Lila stand at the door as punishment. Let her in to play." The people in the room all looked over, their faces filled with teasing anticipation. Andrew frowned. "Who told you to come?" A person walked in behind me, giggling. It was Sabrina, whom I had called sister. Sabrina looked at my sister with a beaming smile. "I wanted you to share in the joy of UGE and me, so that you can get into a university in next year's college entrance examination. We'll be waiting for you at a university." I looked at Andrew, who was frowning, and warned Lily in a low voice, "Watch the occasion. Don't make a fuss." I sneered and turned to leave. Sabrina came to pull me. I pushed her away violently. Sabrina fell to the ground, crying, with tears in her eyes. "Sister, don't be angry. I really have no malice." Andrew suddenly got up and grabbed me. "Stop. Who allowed you to leave?" I stubbornly refused to turn around, until Andrew pinned me against the wall. Just as he was about to speak, he suddenly froze. Tears streamed down my unadorned face, lightly caressing my enchanting eyes, a delicate blush spreading across my eyes, different from the innocent makeup I usually wore to please Andrew. With tears in my eyes, I looked at him. "Andrew, how much more do you want to humiliate me before you're satisfied? Or do you want me to present myself to anyone here? I only found out about Shin-yu going to the exam on the second day after the college entrance examination. I heard Sabrina on the phone with her, comparing answers at home. At that moment, I couldn't even bring myself to confront them, because my parents thought I would make Sabrina unhappy at home, that I had embarrassed them by not getting into university, and were urging me to go back to the old house in Chengdong, ordering the servants to watch me and not let me take too much. Clearly, I am the biological daughter, but everything I should have had was given to the adopted Sabrina by my parents. There wasn't even a room for me in the hundreds of square meter villa. I wanted to find Andrew, but I couldn't reach him. Looking at his WeChat moments, he went abroad to have fun after the college entrance exam. My chat with him is still stuck a few days before the exam. He said, "Let's all go to university together." Okay, but looking at our scores now, it's a bit dangerous. How about we repeat a year together? Don't even bother with the college entrance exam. I'll take care of the repeat class arrangements. You take this time to smooth things over with your family, so they don't bother you." At the time, I completely trusted Andrew, and I was happy that he was finally planning me into his future. I agreed without hesitation. Just like he said, lacking hobbies and easily coaxed, I and Andrew met in our hometown, at the age of 6. Because my parents went out to do business, I lived with my grandma in my hometown with Andrew. This young master hadn't been recognized by the family yet and was my neighbor. We were classmates from elementary school to high school, childhood sweethearts by all accounts, until the first year of high school. The family discovered they had taken the wrong child and found their biological son, Andrew, to return to the family. Andrew was immediately going back to City A. He coaxed me with a smile at the time. "Didn't you always say your aunt and uncle work in City A? Perfect timing for me to take you home." I was also very happy that I could finally go home. My parents were always busy with work and didn't have time to take care of me. I understood that my grandma and I could take care of each other, but my grandma passed away a few years ago, and I was the only one left at home. My parents still didn't take me back. Every dark night when I couldn't sleep, Andrew was there on the phone with me. I came to City A full of hope and excitement, and found that our 2 villas were in the same area according to the address. I was still thinking, what will you do without me in the future? Now it's good, we are still neighbors, still childhood sweethearts. Percent Andrew smiled and squeezed my hand. I blushed and repeatedly straightened my clothes before stepping forward to ring the doorbell. I told my parents a few days ago that I would come today, and they must be waiting for me at home. I haven't seen my parents for a long time, and I don't know if they are still the same as I remember. The doorbell rang with an inquiry. "Who is it?" I had just uttered a single word when my voice went hoarse. I coughed a few times and said, "Mom." "It is Lily." Lily on the other side of the door repeated my name with suspicion. "Are you a relative of this family?" My smile froze, and after a while, a nanny came out and said that there was no one named Lily in the house, and asked if I had the wrong person. "It can't be wrong. I am the daughter of this house. My father is Charles, and my mother is Elaine," I explained urgently. The nanny scratched her head. "But the daughter of this house is called Sabrina. And I've never heard of an older daughter named Lily." As he spoke, he looked back, and a jeweled and exquisite girl stood in the foyer, facing me from afar. It turned out that while I was looking forward to coming home every day, someone had already lived this day for me. Sabrina's coquettish cry interrupted me. She looked at Andrew pitifully. "Andrew, my ankle seems to be sprained. It hurts so much." Andrew subconsciously wanted to let go of me and go over. I pushed him away in my heart and was about to leave. I wouldn't trouble Andrew. I came uninvited, so I should leave. The boy clicked his tongue in annoyance, reached out and pulled me back, told his brother to help Yarrow inside, and said he had something to say to Lily. He lowered his head and looked at me strangely, reached out and wiped away the warm tears, and chuckled, crying, "You look so good when you cry today. Are you deliberately trying to make my heart ache?" I revealed my beautiful profile, tears falling one by one. Andrew was originally very complacent and hadn't planned to explain or apologize, but now looking at the girl's sad appearance with tears in her eyes, he felt a little unbearable. He rarely softened his tone to comfort her. "Study hard for your retake. I'll wait for you at a university." Okay, if he had comforted me like this before, I probably would have forgiven him immediately for what he did, since returning to City A 2 years ago. Andrew has grown more and more distant from me, and increasingly impatient. Such gentle words have been absent for a long time, replaced by his considerate intimacy towards Sabrina. At first, I didn't know what went wrong, instinctively holding on to him tightly, unwilling to let go, willing to lower my dignity and do anything for him. Later, I was surrounded by various discussions, saying that I was not as generous and noble as the adopted daughter, that I had the air of a nouveau riche, that I looked stupid at first glance, and that I was clinging to Andrew, afraid of letting go of a wealthy husband. As long as I stayed in Andrew's or Sabrina's circle, those strange, scrutinizing eyes would always fall on me. So I thought it was my problem, and I became even more eager to please him with all my strength. After all, even my relatives didn't like me. I was always at his beck and call. rain or shine, letting him do whatever he wanted, whatever he liked, I would do. I can't control the urge to compare myself to Sabrina, and I will never forget the complex look the nanny Lan gave me outside the villa back then, and the amazement when she saw Sabrina. I'm very afraid that folk songs have already taken over my family, and they can't take away my childhood sweetheart. I want to prove even more that the strong relationship between Andrew and me is something that can never be taken away. I self-deceptively comforted myself. Kinship with parents cannot be forced. They spent a short time with me, and I can understand their bias, but Andrew has known me for more than 10 years, he will definitely choose me. I stubbornly wanted to prove that someone loves me, that I am worthy of love. The result proved that I am pathetically laughable. I hooked my lips and coldly laughed, shaking off the boy's hand. Andrew didn't care about my resistance, but instead became more gratified. You're really angry, it's my fault this time. But I'll have someone arrange your re-enrollment. Don't be angry, be good. Besides, I didn't say anything wrong. You can't get into a university. If you want to be with me, you definitely have to re-enroll. To be fair, Andrew felt that Lily's background and demeanor were not presentable in this circle, but her beautiful and outstanding face and her 100% obedience to him made up for the shortcomings, so even if he was impatient, he would not easily abandon her. But Andrew didn't know that I controlled my scores to never exceed his each time for his sake. I didn't want him to feel pressured or dislike me because of it. Andrew, after coaxing me a few times, ran out of patience and dragged me into the private room. I suddenly gently tugged at his sleeve, raising my face stained with tears. Wan Sheng is begging. So will you help me? The previously boisterous crowd quieted down, all eyes turning in this direction. I suppressed my disgust and feigned a spoiled tone, not very skillfully. Will you help me get back into the top class of repeaters that I remember? I know you can definitely do it. You're so amazing. Please just help me with this little thing. Okay, I don't know how effective my attempt at being spoiled is, but I have to try. This morning, the water pipe in the old house burst, and after I fixed it myself, I saw myself in the mirror, pale and exhausted, without a trace of vitality. Clearly, I was at an age like a flower, yet my face was full of bitterness, not pleasing at all, taciturn and uninteresting. I tried to pull up the corners of my mouth to show a smile, but it looked strange no matter how I tried. In the old bathroom, I squatted on the floor, going from whimpering to a complete breakdown. I suddenly hated myself. How could I demean myself to this point? The clarity came in an instant. Before, it was all my own fault, and after, I didn't want to be like this anymore. I threw away the plain, pale floral dresses in my closet and bought a bright new dress. Without weakening the aggressiveness of my beautiful features, I knew I was using myself, but I had no choice. I had to get into the rocket class. After a moment of silence, Sabrina laughed first. Sister, the rocket class at number 1 high school isn't for repeat students. Don't make things difficult for Andrew. I'm counting on Andrew. Is this considered making things difficult? But I consulted with the teacher, and I can get in, but there are some conditions. I also thought about asking my parents for help, but you know my parents won't take care of me much because of Sabrina, so you're the only one I have. Sabrina bit her lip secretly, clenching the hem of her skirt with grievance. Sister, are you blaming me for taking away Mom and Dad's love? But I didn't mean to, it's just that Mom and Dad think I'm more outstanding, so they value me more. I can help you find a cram school, no need to bother Andrew. I glanced at her, smiling faintly. It's okay, I don't mind. After all, everyone knows you're adopted. It's normal for Mom and Dad to pay more attention to you to take care of your feelings. Blood is thicker than water, and there's no overnight misunderstanding between me and my parents. Biological is biological. I spoke gently, nonchalantly, just like Shin-yu. Even if that fake young master was as excellent as Shin-yu before, when Shin-yu came back, he was still kicked out. The young man's gaze was fixed on my face, as if he was distracted. I bit my lip and lightly tugged at his lapel. Shin-yu, He came back to his senses, shrugged, and said, okay, I promise you, I'll help you arrange to repeat, just to join a class. It's a small matter. I smiled faintly. I knew you could do it. So amazing. After that night, Andrew suddenly became a little warmer towards me. Lily, I just realized that you're not bad looking even without makeup. That plain, unadorned makeup style didn't suit you. Try a different style in the future. Then he sent me a lot of pictures of beautiful women online, all of them of the sexy and healing type. I scoffed and replied, okay, but we don't have a chance to meet recently. I'm going to work to earn living expenses and want to rent a house near No. 1 high school. Immediately after, I received a transfer of 100,000. No need to be polite with me. Keep me company tonight. I didn't answer directly. Is Meow going too? Andrew didn't insist anymore. I put away my phone and packed my luggage in the old house. The next day, my parents asked me to come home, and I did have something to take care of. I had the moving company send my things to the newly rented apartment. I took a taxi home, and as soon as I entered, I was met with a barrage of angry scolding from my parents, mixed with Sabrina's aggrieved sobs. You knew your sister was with young Master and yet you still interfered. How could I have given birth to a degenerate like you? You're always moping around with a gloomy face and speaking sarcastically. Now your sister dares to shamelessly flaunt herself outside. Have you no sense of shame? Even though I was mentally prepared, I was still pale from the scolding, and a deep, piercing pain spread through my heart. I spent 2 years accepting that I was not loved by my parents, but I didn't expect them to use such vile tones and vocabulary to describe their own daughter. I slowly opened my mouth. What did I do? My aunt cried and sobbed. Sister, I know you and Shin grew up together, but you failed the college entrance exam. Once you take this wrong step, you and Shin will no longer be in the same world. Can you please stop pestering Shin? I found it funny and lowered my head to call Andrew to ask what was going on. My mom strode over and slapped my phone away. You still want to complain? The young master was looking for you last night. Why didn't you answer? Are you just trying to be coy and put on airs, hoping he'll remember you, and then seduce him in private? Your sister kindly wanted to apologize to you last night, but you wouldn't even show your face. What are you so upset about? No one in this family owes you anything. We can give our money to whoever we want. My mother's face magnified and twisted in front of me, and my ears were ringing, unable to hear what they were saying. After a while, consciousness slowly returned. I smiled and said, So, what do you want? Sabrina's eyes flickered. Sister, why don't you just go back to our hometown? The old house is empty, and it'll feel lifeless. The ancestors won't be at peace, which isn't good for Mom and Dad's business. Dad looked at her with satisfaction. Yarrow is right. You truly are Dad's good daughter. I looked at this family of 3 and slowly nodded. Okay, but I have a condition. I want money. Since you came back home, what else have you mentioned besides money? Have you been as close to me as your sister? Treating me like a mother? The woman sneered. Sabrina quickly ran over to hug her and act spoiled. Mom, don't be angry. I will be filial to you forever. The 3 of them stood there glaring at me, as if I were the sinner who had ruined this family. I wanted to laugh again, but tears kept welling up in my eyes. So, how much money are you going to give me? My dad handed over a card. There's 100,000 in here, enough for you to transfer schools, repeat a year, and get into college. Don't think we're favoring one over the other. Yoroiro's monthly living expenses are only 1,500. It's true that her living expenses are only 1,500. But her monthly allowance is hundreds of thousands, and buying bags and clothes is always done through a linked payment, so she doesn't have to spend her own money. What about me? When I came to City A, I had only a few thousand left to my name, which my grandma left me, for these 2 years. I still have to work to support myself. When Grandma was alive, they often forgot to send money on time. Grandma didn't enjoy a life of leisure in her hometown, as they said. After the funeral, they didn't mention giving me any money and left in a hurry. At the time, I heard my mom receive a phone call saying someone was crying terribly. I even asked about it, but my mom impatiently brushed me off. Later, I found out it was Sabrina. I didn't pick up enough. Even Andrew could casually give me 100,000 to rent a place. But my parents only wanted to use 100,000 to sever ties. My dad, with a dark face, increased it to 500,000 if I still didn't think it was enough. He wouldn't give me a single cent and would send me back. I took the card and looked at them again. One more thing. Move my household registration out. Mom and Dad were stunned. Ming Yao was secretly pleased. I can also guarantee that I will never actively look for Andrew or appear in front of him, I added. Sabrina hurriedly grabbed my mother's sleeve, silently pleading. Mom and Dad exchanged glances, went back to the room to discuss for a moment, and then agreed. I closed my eyes and let out a heavy breath, hot tears streaming down my cheeks. This will be the last time I shed tears for them. As I was finishing the formalities and leaving, my mother suddenly stopped me. She was silent for a moment, her face a little touched. I won't call you Mom anymore in the future, anyway. You never expected it, I interrupted her. The woman, feeling a bit awkward, angrily grabbed the hand of Sabrina beside her. Fine, fine, you really are an ungrateful wretch. If you have the guts, then never acknowledge me as your mother. I looked at the brand new household register with confusion. Didn't you always think I was bad? What are you getting angry about now? Sabrina suppressed the corners of her mouth and tried to persuade her sister, don't talk back to Mom. Before she could finish, I interrupted her again. I hope you can keep an eye on Andrew. I promise I won't initiate anything, but if he comes looking for me, I won't refuse. Sabrina's face darkened. I took one last look at my parents and turned to leave. I went back to my hometown, temporarily of course, to pay respects to my grandmother and spend some time with her. Coming back from the cemetery, I ran into an unexpected person at my doorstep. Are you Anne's? I asked hesitantly. The boy who was about to open the door looked over at the sound, and after a few seconds of eye contact, he opened the door. My surname is Fu now. Zachary is also recognized by the Yin family as the real young master. So this fake young master naturally returned to his original position. It's just that 2 years ago, I remember he took the neighboring uncles and aunties to City A. I've moved my household registration back and I'm retaking the exam here. He explained calmly, I know you, you're Andrew's girlfriend. I wasn't before, and I won't be in the future. What about Auntie and the others? I asked. They just opened a breakfast shop in H. Zachary looked at me again. Are you staying for a few days? I smiled and said, yeah. Those people and those things will be far away from me in the future. I wasn't in the mood to cook dinner, so I ordered takeout. When I opened the door to pick it up, the delivery guy called and said he had fallen and the food had spilled. I sighed and told him not to worry about my order. Zachary came back from outside, and I nodded awkwardly. A moment after closing the door, he knocked with a bowl of wontons, just like my mom used to make. Want to try some? I smelled the long-lost familiar aroma and almost burst into tears. When I was little, I also regarded Aunt Hu as my mother, but after returning to City A, I hadn't even thought about visiting them once. I delayed everything for Andrew. I'm such a failure. Zachary saw my red eyes and chuckled. My fingers were about to get burned, so I quickly took it and thanked him. But I still have Zachary, so I simply opened his door. I silently finished eating, washed the dishes, and wanted to find something as a return gift, but I hadn't bought anything for the house yet, so I took the newly bought review materials over. Thank you, you're welcome. Zachary's gaze fell on the review materials. This just happens to be unavailable here. Why would you retake the exam? I couldn't help but ask. Zachary, she was known to be excellent in the Yin family, both in terms of grades and character. So I was very surprised that the Yin family gave her up without hesitation. After all, my parents chose to keep their adopted daughter. There was a moment when I was jealous of Andrew, jealous that she was firmly chosen by her parents. I also thought that it would be nice if Zachary was still here. Then Andrew and I would be in the same boat. Zachary looked at me intently for a moment, then his gaze suddenly swept behind me, his expression icy. Because of him, I turned back in astonishment. Andrew had just stood still, and after the initial surprise, his eyes turned grim and his tone was icy. What are you doing? I felt a subconscious panic rise in my heart. How could you be here? Andrew slowly walked in, his face extremely gloomy. Looking at him like this, I was actually a little dazed. Once, our two families were as close as could be, living across from each other, often visiting each other's homes. I had looked at his figure countless times like this, walking closer, but now I felt so unfamiliar. He was so unfamiliar in his fashionable clothes, he was so unfamiliar with his grim expression, and he was so unfamiliar looking at me indifferently. Well, that last one wasn't so unfamiliar. "What do you think I'm doing here? I heard you were kicked out and I've been looking everywhere for you, but I couldn't get a ticket. I drove all the way back to this dump myself to find you, just in case something happened to you." Andrew grabbed my face and turned it towards Zachary, who was frowning. "So you're with him, Lily? Have you forgotten who you are, and who he is? He stole my position for over a decade. Have you fucking forgotten that you betrayed me? Even Sabrina knows to switch targets to please you. Let him go." Zachary stepped forward and grabbed Andrew's wrist, coldly stopping him. "Let's talk outside." Andrew's expression was twisted with madness. Just as the two were about to fight, I blinked and tears rolled down my face. "Did Sabrina send you here to humiliate me?" Andrew paused, without looking at Zachary. I continued to quietly shed tears. "You and she are getting married, so you think my existence is an eyesore, is that it?" I didn't need to answer Andrew's words because he wouldn't believe anything I said. I just wanted to ask some questions that I should have asked a long time ago but never dared to. "I know you're the real young master, and he's the fake one. But do you think I get the same treatment as you in your family? I was clearly the one who was abandoned when I was born, so it's perfectly reasonable for me to come back here, isn't it?" I said, tears streaming down my face, my voice soft, almost broken. I didn't dare to go against Sabrina that night at the party, just because I didn't go. "You called me. Do you know what the Ning family said about me?" Andrew unconsciously let go of my hand, because my tears were dripping onto his hand. "Scalding hot, Lily. They called me a bitch, said I was cheap, said I was trash. Shin, you and I grew up together, am I?" I stared at him stubbornly, even though I felt disgusted and nauseous, even though I was already sneering inwardly. Andrew's expression softened, and he vigorously wiped away my tears. "Of course not. And I never said I was going to marry Sabrina. I'm not here to shame you. I'm just worried about you disappearing without a word. I'm very worried." I smiled sadly. "Thank you for letting me know that there is still someone in this world who cares about me just for giving birth. Sabrina said that I am no longer in the same world as you. I don't want to be targeted by him anymore. Please don't come again in the future. What he says is bullshit," Andrew said angrily. Seeing that I was still crying, he took out his phone and made a call. The call was quickly answered, and Sabrina's cheerful and coquettish voice rang out. "Shin, you're looking for me. What did you say to Lily?" Andrew interrupted her rudely. Sabrina was stunned for a moment. What could I say to my sister? Did my sister look for you?" "Shin, don't listen to his nonsense. My sister is very angry with you because she didn't go to the college entrance examination." In a fit of anger, she insisted on breaking off relations with the family, which made Mom sick. I lowered my head, listening to Sabrina's slander, tears flowing in my eyes, a cold smile on my lips, and glanced into Zachary's calm eyes. I froze for a moment, then shrugged indifferently at her. "I have nothing now, only myself. I can use anything. Tears, emotions. These worthless things can all be given away." While Andrew's attitude towards me is warming up, I want to do as much as possible what is beneficial to me. Andrew impatiently interrupted Sabrina's words. He wouldn't do such a thing. The cold smile on my lips deepened. "My childhood sweetheart is the person in this world who knows best how much I depend on him. The person who knows best how much I long for the warmth of family, so he would never believe what Sabrina said." Sabrina was over there crying aggrievedly. "Brother Shin, you've misunderstood me. Everything I said is true, woo-woo." Andrew hung up her phone directly. Sabrina's crying was shrill and piercing, annoying him. He turned his eyes and saw the quiet and indifferent me. Andrew's emotions gradually calmed down. He pulled me out, even forgetting to threaten Zachary. And Shung wanted to take me back to City A, but I declined, saying I wanted to stay with Grandma until school started, so he didn't insist anymore, just held me. The deep-voiced housewife contacted me every day, also telling me to stay away from Zachary. I softly agreed, but after he left, I knocked on the door next door. "Let's study together." Zachary's grades were better than mine. He had received elite education since childhood. "Do you want to go to a university?" he asked me. I shook my head. I just want to try my best to go to the major that suits me best and has the best employment prospects. My life has no room for error, no one to support me. I don't aspire to stand very high, but I desperately hope that the road under my feet is very stable." Zachary understood. "Would Andrew bother you?" I smiled to myself. Once he starts school, he'll forget about me. So Zachary and I exchanged contact information and agreed on a time to communicate every day. When the opening day of the rocket class arrived, I went to visit my grandma one last time and then returned to City A. Andrew came to pick me up and gave me the new home address, telling me to study hard in the rocket class. I didn't answer, but instead, I craned my neck to look behind him, looking for someone. He held my shoulder and asked amusingly, "Didn't Sabrina come with you?" I asked softly. Andrew clicked his tongue. "Do you want to avoid him or not? Yet you keep asking." "Because ever since we returned to City A, he's been constantly taking you away from me." I pitifully showed weakness. "I'm just afraid that while I'm repeating the year, if you guys are still in City A, he'll continue to monopolize you." Andrew hugged me as we got into the car. "I told you. Just focus on repeating the year. Don't worry about anything else." I lowered my head and thanked him. My eyes filled with indifference. Andrew took me to my new home, frowning with dissatisfaction. "I gave you 100,000, and you rent this kind of neighborhood. Change it. That 100,000 is for a VIP tutoring class. I'm sorry, I'll go get the money back." I explainedly. Actually, I gave it all to Zachary, entrusting him to manage it for me. Including the 400,000 given to sever ties, I only kept 100,000 with me. I know nothing about funds, stocks, or savings. But Zachary is different. He has been exposed to these things for a long time. When the family let Zachary leave, they didn't give him a single penny. Fortunately, Zachary's brothers didn't kick him when he was down and extended a helping hand in private, which made me even more confident that Zachary can be trusted. "What are you crying for? I didn't yell at you." Andrew helplessly took out his phone and signed me up for the class. "What are you returning? I'll just give you more." So I calmly accepted the second 100,000 and said I would find a place and move as soon as possible. Andrew pinched my face and then teased me. He looked me up and down and lifted my chin with a chuckle. "Lily, you are much prettier than Sabrina now. Don't be insecure, but in your eyes, if I'm really that good, my parents wouldn't let it go, would they? Want to come to my new place and sit for a while? I'll cook for you." I smiled with my eyes curved, a glistening sheen of tears welling up. Andrew's voice was even hoarser. "Just inviting me to dinner." A wave of nausea washed over me, and I almost lost my composure. Fortunately, Andrew's phone rang. It was a group of young men inviting him to a club, me included. Andrew naturally picked up my luggage. I didn't refuse, asking him to wait a moment while I changed. Andrew raised an eyebrow and agreed. As I pulled out a short skirt from my suitcase, he stopped my hand. "Don't change," he said. "This outfit is beautiful. Save that one," he whispered, his hand on my waist, "and wear it for me next time we're alone." I smiled and didn't say anything. And when I arrived at the clubhouse, Sabrina was there too. When she saw me, her expression changed, but she immediately put on a smiling face and greeted me. "Sister, why are you here with Shin-yu? The cram school is about to start. Shouldn't you be at home preparing?" Andrew used to like Sabrina because she was sensible and knew how to talk, but now I think is increasingly forcing conversation and doesn't read the room. He pulled Ning and explained impatiently. "I brought her to finish one last time." Sabrina chimed in brightly, "Oh, doctor," and then affectionately took my arm. "Sister, let's sit over here." I followed her lead, as I didn't want to sit next to Andrew anyway. There were many pretty girls in the clubhouse, and since Andrew got into a university, he always felt triumphant and became even more unruly, not putting anyone in his eyes, let alone me. So, within a few minutes, he was mingling and playing with other people. I held my water glass and drank slowly, calculating the time to leave. Sabrina pinched my arm and said through gritted teeth in my ear, "Didn't you promise me you wouldn't show up anymore, bitch?" I said I wouldn't contact him, but I can't control him. I painfully pulled my arm away, barely stopping myself from splashing water on her. Sabrina was about to say something, but seeing someone in Andrew's arms, she hurried over. Forgetting about me, I looked at the red marks on my arm, turned my face, and pretended to watch the people playing games over there. But in reality, I was zoning out. There were a lot of people in the factory, at least half of whom I didn't recognize. A dozen minutes passed, and just as I was about to sneak away, someone sat next to me. "Hey beautiful, are you alone?" I looked up. "I came with Shun-yu. Didn't you see him?" "Oh, that little Andrew," the man sneered. "Ask him if he dares to refuse if I ask you to have a drink with me." My heart sank slightly, but I wasn't too scared. In the past 2 years, I've followed Andrew here too many times, and I've been embarrassed in public in these kinds of situations, so I know how to deal with it. But someone didn't want me to be embarrassed. This is my friend. I have to give me some face, right? A young man walked over and asked loudly. The other man took one look, laughed awkwardly twice, chuckled and left me. I thanked him gratefully. The young man waved his hand, leaving only a sentence and a business card. "I'm AZ's friend. He asked us to take care of you if we saw you in these kinds of situations. Don't hesitate to call me if you need anything." I was stunned, picked up the business card. He was like the family's crown prince, responsible for having them take care of me. For a moment, I suddenly felt like I was wrong again. Even Zachary, whom I've only known for a month, knows to tell me to protect myself. But I've thrown myself into this dangerous place again. Did I really need to come here? Did I really need to get entangled with Andrew again? I dazedly turned my head to look in Andrew's direction, watching him being unrestrained and wanton, not caring about me at all. Even Sabrina had become an accessory to those beautiful girls. My heart was pierced awake again. I wiped my face, got up, and left. The night wind dispersed the smoky intoxication of the club. I took out my phone, opened the chat box with Zachary, and clicked with trembling fingers. "Thank you, Zachary. You're welcome. Because we all have to take care of ourselves. We have to work hard." After that night, it took several days for Andrew to contact me again. I brushed him off with a few words, saying that school was starting and I needed to disconnect from the internet to study. Soon, a university started, and Andrew was even more fascinated by his new life. It wasn't until the winter break, which was only a week long, but I still bought a ticket in advance to go back to my hometown to spend the new year with my grandma, and to consolidate things with Zachary. For the past few months, we've been studying together online almost every night, making and checking study plans for each other. I gave him the review materials for the GA and the rocket class, and he organized his own neat notes for each subject according to my weak points and progress, and printed them out for me, knowing that I was going back to my hometown for the Chinese New Year. Zachary even cleaned my room in advance and bought New Year's goods. He said that his aunt and uncle would also return to their hometown and go back after the whole winter vacation. But on the first day I got home, I received a phone call from Andrew ordering, "Where are you?" "I'm at Grandma's," I shouted. As long as I bring up Grandma, Andrew's temper will be a little less fiery. As expected, the other party paused. "Why didn't you say so earlier? I was planning to spend New Year's Eve with you." "Thank you." I was eager to end the conversation. Ever since that time at the club when I was taken care of by the friend in charge, I had rejected my previous thoughts and didn't want to have anything to do with Andrew anymore. Actually, in the beginning, I just needed him to help me get into the cram school. "Take good care of yourself at home. Grandma would be upset if she knew you were sick." Andrew was rarely gentle, which surprised me a bit, but I didn't say much. Yes, I knew I had to clean the house. Thinking about Lily, he stopped me, his voice filled with emotion, saying it's really not easy for us to be such good childhood sweethearts after all these years. I was completely confused, just feeling baffled. It wasn't until after I hung up and searched a university's campus forum that I understood it was about a golden couple, childhood sweethearts who broke up after graduation in a very ugly way, and that childhood sweetheart was Andrew's friend, who I've met and knew to be a playboy. I wordlessly exited the page. I just found it laughable that compared to the sober and self-loving senior, these arrogant cucumbers who trample on true feelings make me, a simp, seem better. Zachary knocked on the door, a smile blooming on his face. "I've booked a restaurant. I'm going to pick up my parents from the station later. You should have dinner with us. After all, They're more familiar with you than with me. I gladly agreed and took the gifts I bought for his parents. The 500,000 that Zachary gave me had already been turned into 5 million by his friend. I suspected there was a lot of exaggeration in it, but Zachary said, "Rich people know better how to make money work, just keep it." My aunt and uncle were also pleasantly surprised to see me. After learning that I had fallen out with my family, they indignantly scolded the Ning family for being heartless. "Your grandmother worked hard her whole life, but in the end, she didn't think Sun Fu was pitiful. It's good that you're filial, but it's also pitiful. If the child needs anything in the future, tell your aunt, we'll still be the same as before." My aunt stroked my hair with tears in her eyes, and I nodded heavily, holding back my tears. "Yeah, %%." Zachary handed me a tissue by my side. "Family is what you choose for yourself, and now we are family." My uncle nodded and put food in my bowl, which is the same principle. Xiao Li also grew up under our care. We had a warm and fulfilling New Year. On New Year's Eve, because I was at the Fu's house, I didn't bring my phone with me. When I got home after staying up all night, I saw more than a dozen calls and messages from Andrew. "Happy New Year, Lily." I looked at it indifferently, without replying. I didn't answer until he called again on the first day of the new year, and I still greeted him perfunctorily. A few days passed quickly, and Zachary sent me to the station. On the way, I carefully watched the tall and handsome boy. The experiences of the past 2 years have given him a calmness and maturity that his peers don't have, and his temperament is very eye-catching. He smiled at me, and when he thoughtfully leaned in to help me tidy up my scarf and hair, I blushed a little and lowered my head to avoid him. Zachary was stunned for a moment and apologized, but the boy saw my red ears, and the corners of his lips curled up slightly. Instead, he leaned in again and helped me tidy up. I avoided his gaze, not daring to look at him, and kept my head down in silence. "No need to be too anxious about the new semester, just follow my steps. I know how hard you've worked." Zachary's gentle and warm voice echoed in my ears. He's always been like this, but today I feel he's even gentler. "And suddenly I'm so reluctant to leave. If you feel stressed or down, just call me. I'll always be there for you. I'll have someone continue to manage that money. You don't need to worry about financial problems before you graduate from university, and don't mistreat yourself." As he gave me instructions one by one, my cheeks burned even more, and I nodded haphazardly in response. Finally, Zachary gently handed me the suitcase, and as I reached for the handle, his fingertip brushed against mine. "We will both achieve our wishes. I promised to return to City A." The thumping of my heart, which had been caused by Zachary, gradually calmed down. When I saw Andrew downstairs at home, I felt a slight irritation. Maybe I should explain to him that I came back and forgot to pick you up. He leaned against the car, stubbing out his cigarette. I stood a few meters away and said, "I didn't want to trouble you. How did you find the time to stop by and see if Grandma's grave is okay?" Andrew stood up and walked closer to me. Nodding, "I helped you wish Grandma a Happy New Year." Of course, he didn't. Andrew seemed incredibly considerate because of this statement. He held my hand, helped me with my luggage, and took me home first. "By the way, didn't I ask you to move? Why are you still living here? You won't have time after school starts. Besides, this place is nice, very much like our old home. I like it." I no longer shy away from mentioning my background, my and Andrew's background. Andrew and I were once eager to shed our small-town labels, but now I don't care about that anymore. Andrew paused, a hint of nostalgia in his steps. "Yeah, do you remember how I listened to him ramble on about his childhood until my patience finally ran out? What do you want from me?" The boy stared intently at me. "Why don't we give it a try?" I stared back in astonishment, then burst out laughing after a few seconds, almost laughing my guts out. What are you saying? When I needed him, when I was desperately chasing after him, when I was being humiliated, he didn't say these words. Why is he suddenly acting so crazy now? Andrew felt a little embarrassed after saying it himself. Isn't it normal for us childhood sweethearts to have a relationship? But actually, Andrew had listened to his buddy's advice. That little childhood sweetheart of yours is really great, loyal and easy to manipulate, and her face is definitely top-notch. Aren't you wasting her if you don't date her? Besides, It's normal for a childhood friend to take his childhood sweetheart's first blood. You're not getting married, it's just dating. Wouldn't it be a disservice to your years of childhood friendship if you didn't date her? Really, bro, I advise you that your first love should be a childhood sweetheart. It's unforgettable and you gain experience. Besides, think about it yourself. How would you feel if I went after her? Damn, I'm just giving an example. You're hitting too hard. Andrew thought so too. Anyway, Lily had always been chasing after him. As long as he responded, it would be considered dating. I felt powerless and speechless. If I were still the person I used to be, then I would definitely agree. But now is the critical moment for retaking the college entrance exams. If I agree, will I still have the energy to study? Andrew never considered that the mutual companionship we had in our youth was long gone, and all that was left was selfishness. He was selfish. And so was I. In the end, I used retaking the exams to block his words. I just want to study now. Andrew then remembered, lit a cigarette, and agreed with a smile. Okay, then I'll wait for you at a university. The rented house was dusty, so I used it as an excuse to send Andrew away. Then, I cleaned up and put away the things I brought from my hometown one by one. During that time, Zachary sent me a message, seeing that the nausea that had been stuck in my chest had finally dissipated. I couldn't help but tell him what Andrew had just said. Zachary replied, his voice still gentle and steady. He said, I know you won't agree to him and that you'll have a way to deal with him, but if you really need help, please tell me, okay, and don't worry about causing me trouble. Family affairs don't represent everything. Strength does, of course. Making friends with powerful people is also one of my strengths. My whole body was burning because of these two sentences. I replied softly. I won't let you down, Zachary. I know I'm like you, and I believe in you. The new semester brought heavier tasks. Andrew seemed determined to talk to me, often coming over from University A on weekends, or else contacting me by phone, which was incredibly annoying. I simply told him directly not to bother me, or I would get angry. Andrew looked at me with interest, his cheek propped up in his hand. I haven't seen you angry yet. I ignored him, and directly shut the door. Sending a message to Sabrina to take care of it. Okay, Andrew, don't let him come looking for me. Probably Sabrina exerted some effort, because from then until the college entrance exam, Andrew didn't come again, only sending a few messages on WeChat, which I blocked to avoid affecting my mood for the exam. The night before the exam, Zachary and I fell asleep on the phone. After it ended, Zachary came to City A to see me as soon as possible, facing the answer key and estimating my score. I was so nervous I felt like vomiting. When Zachary put down his pen and smiled at me, I knew I had done it. I threw myself into his arms, overwhelmed with emotion, going from a sob to a full-blown cry, and Zachary just held me tightly in his arms, preventing me from falling. He brought me a gift for the exam, saying, "Thank you, Lily, for working so hard to save yourself. This is what Lily deserves." I opened it and it was a star necklace. Zachary helped me put it on. His fingertip lingering behind my neck, skin barely touching before pulling away. "You will be even better in the future. You believe in me that much?" I asked, my eyes misty with tears. "I believe in you, and I also believe that I will always be with you," he answered firmly. "Before, I said we were family. But now I want to say that I like you." I held the necklace tightly and cried, laughing through my tears. But I used to like Andrew, so it's only natural that I would be attracted to Zachary. He gave me so much help and guidance. His gentleness and encouragement were treasures I had never received from anyone except my grandma. But what do I have that's worth him liking? Zachary gently wiped away my tears. "The first time I saw you was at the recognition banquet. You were genuinely happy for Andrew. And you also felt sorry for me. Before I was kicked out, I often heard about you and Andrew. They said bad things about you. But I thought Andrew didn't deserve you." Zachary confessed his jealousy and dark thoughts at the time. "Anyone standing under the cherry blossom tree looks beautiful, but your unreserved affection is more precious than anyone else's. I even thought about snatching you away to anger him." I couldn't help but laugh. "But then you realized that Andrew didn't care. So there was no need to snatch you away. I realized that you never regretted it, and I didn't have the right to drag you into the conflict between him and me." Zachary held me and sat on the sofa. I sat on his lap face to face, my face flushed. Meeting you again happened after I had become disheartened with Andrew, and we were comrades in the same trench. It's perfectly normal to like you. Zachary affectionately wrapped his arms around my waist. Lily is brave, dares to love and hate, is smart, friendly, and grateful. Even her beauty isn't the main reason. So how could I not be moved? Zachary is simply the most coaxing person I've ever met. I can't resist him at all, and I don't want to resist. I gently kissed his lips, but he quickly took the lead. When he called to tell his aunt and uncle, I was still nestled in his arms, panting with a flushed face, and when I heard his aunt's happy voice, I was too shy to lift my head. Zachary turned his face to kiss me, chuckling softly. Be quiet, Mom will hear. I quickly held my breath until I couldn't hold it any longer, only to realize that he had already hung up the phone and was looking at me with a smile. Zachary, you're a treasure. He kissed me again. After Zachary and I became official, we started preparing to move into the apartment he bought near a university. Getting into a university was a sure thing, and he had already researched my and his major options. During a dinner party, he took me to meet all his friends. Only then did I realize that Zachary had been running a startup, and his studio was already on track, just waiting for its boss to return. In comparison, Andrew almost failed all his subjects at a university, and skipping class was a regular occurrence. The family will definitely regret kicking you out, I couldn't help but say. And Zachary smiled. So will your family. We'll be the masters of our own houses from now on. The day the college entrance exam results came out, Aunt Shin finally remembered to call me. Lily, your score is definitely enough. I asked your head teacher. Come on, hey. How about Dalian University of Technology? I've prepared a surprise for you. On the other end of the phone, Andrew signaled for the people in the private room to be quiet, gently pushing away the girl leaning against him. The brothers all showed knowing expressions. Andrew was a lucky guy, showing off his childhood sweetheart who had never left his side many times. She even tolerated him not going to the college entrance exam. Now, he was finally about to seal the deal. However, on the other end of the phone, instead of the girl's soft compliance, was a persistent teasing that Andrew could recognize even if he were turned to ashes. What surprise! Tell me. Andrew's face suddenly turned ugly, and he gritted his teeth and roared, Zachary, if you dare touch him, it's not up to you. He laughed mockingly and hung up the phone. Bang! The phone was smashed in the private room, the screen shattered, and the champagne tower was pushed down by the furious Andrew. The boy stormed out, but couldn't even find where I was. I sent Andrew a message back. My sugar daddy is called, and Andrew is really disgusting. Don't contact me again. And then I blacklisted him in every way. I don't plan to return the 200,000 either. It's compensation for my losses. Zachary took me, my aunt, and my uncle on vacation to 4 different places until the acceptance letter arrived, and then we returned to City A. The funny thing is, Andrew was still frantically searching for me, going back to the old house in Chengdong, the rented apartment, and the Ning and Fu family's hometown. But I was nowhere to be found. As for Grandma's grave, I secretly moved it to another location in the rural hometown. I am very selfish. I don't even want the heartless Ning family to disturb him with their visits, but with Zachary and me around, he won't be lonely. On the day of a university's opening, Andrew finally cornered me. His eyes were bloodshot with hatred, yet he asked in a hoarse voice if I was angry with him. Lily, I want one honest answer from you. Did you ever have feelings for me? I also gave him an honest answer. Before you tricked me into taking the college entrance exam, the only person I liked was you. Andrew couldn't bear to hear the words childhood sweetheart ever again. He did try to break Zachary and me up and win me back, but no matter how he tried to contact me, he would only be blacklisted by me and intercepted by the programs Zachary developed. At school, Zachary and I were inseparable, and even if he tried to fight, he couldn't beat Zachary. When Li Yingying shouted downstairs at the girls' dormitory, I remained indifferent. It wasn't even 1/10 of the humiliation I suffered back then. Sabrina broke down because of this and harassed me just like Andrew, because he could enter the girls' dormitory. Zachary and I simply moved out to live together. Andrew has a bad temper. He sobered up at the Durian Club. It was on campus. And Zachary and I lingered around the Ding's residence. Sabrina was crying and trying to persuade him. Glaring at me with hatred, Zachary was probably also annoyed and went directly to the Yin family, asking them to discipline him properly. Now, Zachary and a few top second-generation friends are doing very well in their business ventures, and the Yin family would not refuse to give him face for the sake of profit. Part of the reason Andrew got into a university was also due to his household registration, seeing his failing grades. The Yin family directly found a way to forcibly send him abroad for gilding. Andrew tried to escape from home but was almost hit by a car, losing half his life in shock, and he never resisted again. Before leaving the country, he called me with a secretly used phone. "Lily, wait for me to come back. I regret it. I regret it. Do you hear me? Wait for me to come back." I was Zachary's arms, breathing unsteadily and perfunctorily. "Yeah, wait for you to come back and drink my wedding wine." 3 years later, Andrew returned to China, thinking he had the script of My White Moonlight, but when he came back, he saw my wedding with Zachary, and broke down again, making a scene outside the venue and making a fool of himself, causing the Yin family to lose another son with Zachary, pacifying his anger. Andrew was sent away again before his butt was warm, and Zacharias not enthusiastic about the Yin family, nor does he reject that A is in the circle. Everyone says that it would have been better not to look for his biological son back then. A year later, Andrew begged his grandfather and grandmother and was allowed to return to China, hiding in City A to avoid me and Zachary. It is said that as soon as he hears the words childhood sweetheart, he will choke and cry, then panic and leave, regretting it terribly, and was finally diagnosed with a mental illness, and has since been completely marginalized. Every time I would deliberately send someone to say that Andrew is dirty and cheap and not worthy of me. You can't find a psychologically fragile, love-deficient, and incompetent successor like that when looking for a simp, otherwise, your family will go bankrupt. When I was a junior, I was preparing for a new career journey, and when I heard the news, I only paused for a few seconds and ignored it. They were originally nouveau riche, relying on the east wind of the times to live off their savings. It was only a matter of time before they declined if they didn't consider transformation, but Zachary asked me before if I wanted to put pressure on them to go bankrupt so quickly, and I didn't hesitate. If it's beneficial to us, of course, we should. I haven't enjoyed any of the Ning family's wealth, so what does it matter to me what happens to them? Zachary looked at my nasty little expression obsessively and asked to what extent I wanted to go. I recalled the 2,000 yuan I had left when I came to City A, and said casually that an income of 500 yuan a month for 3 people should be enough to survive. End of the second part. On my birthday, I held on to a simple stroke of luck, waiting happily for Eric to come back, but after midnight, he brought his pregnant ex-girlfriend, whom he had divorced, back to our new home. His eyes were gentle, but not towards me. She wasn't feeling well, so she would stay here first, and I would take care of her. She glanced at the cake on the table and couldn't help but cooing weakly in my husband's arms. The cream smells so disgusting. So my cake was personally thrown into the trash by Eric, who said, "Why eat cake today?" The dishes on the table had been reheated several times and had lost their original color, and the cream on the cake was a little collapsed. I looked at my phone again, my heart aching slightly. Eric promised me before his business trip that he would definitely come back to celebrate my birthday with me today. Not only is it my birthday, but today is also our wedding anniversary, but my conversation with him stopped at around 9 in the morning. I told him to come back early and be careful on the road. He said, "Okay," and after that, it was all my own monologue, from a little after 9 o'clock to 11:59. More than a dozen messages filled with my unwillingness. Although I'm used to it, I'm still sad. Click, it's past midnight. I smiled wryly and suppressed the disappointment piling up in my heart, pinched my slightly cold fingertips, lit the candle, turned off the lights, took a few photos, and added a gentle filter called Honey Love to post on WeChat Moments. My 26th birthday, our 3rd anniversary, is still a happy one. My best friend hasn't slept yet, she's back. I wanted to reply that Eric is back, he brought me a gift, and we celebrated our anniversary together, but my fingertips hesitated to type the words, perhaps knowing that this kind of self-deception wouldn't fool her. Immediately after, my best friend sent a message: Gina is divorced and is going back to China. Do you know? Be careful of those two. I immediately denied it. Impossible. Eric won't rekindle his old flame with her. I believe in Eric. Maybe the world is just that cruel. The minute after I sent that message, my husband came home with his pregnant ex-girlfriend, Gina, whom he was divorcing, making my previous certainty and trust seem foolish and ridiculous. Husband, I froze for a moment, then hurried to turn on the kitchen light, stunned and overwhelmed by the scene before me. Why are they together? Clearly Eric's business trip location is half a street away from Gina's, but Gina is wearing his trench coat, leaning against him. My husband had one arm around her lower back and the other protecting her slightly bulging pregnant belly. After hearing my voice, he responded calmly, "Go get the suitcase outside," and then carefully escorted Gina upstairs. His expression softened visibly. Slow down. The dining table was right in front of him. The cake and candles so obvious, but he couldn't see them. I clenched my palm, about to speak. When Gina gagged a few times, Eric quickly asked with concern, "What's wrong?" "Not feeling well. The smell of cream is a bit sickening." He nestled into Eric's arms, breathing in his scent. Eric patted him reassuringly, then went over and threw the cake straight into the trash. My throat was choked with intense indignation and disbelief, and I couldn't say a word. Eric didn't react to my reddened eyes when he turned around, but instead asked me why I was having cake today. Why? Didn't he find the question laughable and absurd? Eric didn't need my answer either. He accompanied Gina upstairs. I took a deep breath, stepped forward a few steps, and tried to appear polite. The guest room is on the first floor and doesn't have a restroom, which is inconvenient for pregnant women. You'll stay in the guest bedroom for now. I'll go pack your things later, he said without the slightest hesitation. What about you? I retorted. %. Eric looked calm, as if he were an obstetrician. I'll take care of her, so you can relax. I almost laughed. Was this supposed to be considerate of me? That's our bedroom. If you think it's inconvenient here, we can send Gina to a specialized maternity center. I'll pay for the best. I insisted against it. That was our love nest, which I decorated bit by bit. Eric, and I haven't even slept in it for more than a month. %. Eric's face turned cold. Mengyun, be reasonable. She's pregnant and can't handle long journeys. In that instant, I really wanted to show him the pregnancy test in my pocket. I'm pregnant too, and the baby in my belly is ours, but I didn't want a third person to announce the arrival of a child in such a situation. Gina giggled and tugged at Eric's sleeve. Look at how fierce you are, still the same as before, only I'm not afraid of your cold face. She turned to me. I'm really sorry. Yunyun, but I don't have any relatives or friends here right now. It's not good to bother you with just Ark, so please let me stay for a few days. Okay, once I've settled in. I'll definitely clean the master bedroom for you before moving out. Eric put his arm around her and brushed past me, his tone containing a hint of helpless blame. You should just be a good pregnant woman. Gina looked back at me again. Yunyun, please help me with my suitcase. I want to take a shower. Hurry up. I stood there watching them go upstairs, as if I was the superfluous one. My phone buzzed, and my best friend sent a screenshot and a hesitant message. I'm always on your side. Call me if you need anything. The screenshot was of Gina's moments. Just 1 hour before I posted that self-deceivingly happy photo, he and Eric were hugging and taking photos at the exit station, announcing to the world that he had returned home. With my husband, it felt like a slap in the face. Now everyone knows I'm deluding myself. Those who know about the three of us are probably laughing at my overestimation. The painstakingly maintained facade of happiness was suddenly shattered at this moment, and an unspeakable shame and anger welled up in my heart, making my stomach a little uncomfortable. I lowered my eyes and touched them, opened the door. It was raining outside. Several suitcases were placed at the door. I silently pushed them into the house one by one. I didn't see Eric's suitcase. These were all Gina's. Eric came downstairs and said thank you to me, and then naturally and familiarly distinguished which box contained toiletries and opened it to help Gina find pajamas and underwear. Where's your suitcase? I asked him with a hoarse voice, still understated. The wheel is broken. I threw it away. I didn't ask where his things were. I've already done a lot of ridiculous things today. Let me help you pack. I suppressed the nausea rising from the meal, not wanting my husband's things to be mixed with his ex-girlfriend's. No need, he doesn't like others touching his things. Clean up the restaurant, and don't make oily dishes. Eric refused outright. Oh right. Can you ask around to see which hospital has a good obstetrics and gynecology department? Never mind, I'll do it myself. He, Beethoven, gave me a look and turned to go upstairs. On the night of our wedding anniversary, he prepared a light midnight snack for his pregnant ex-girlfriend, coaxing her to eat it gently. While I could only watch, Eric didn't return to the guest room to sleep, and took Gina for a prenatal checkup early the next morning. I tore up the form and threw it in the trash can. Even the first time my husband accompanied me to a prenatal checkup was taken from me. I don't want to live like this with the three of us. Can we just stop them and talk when they come back tonight? Eric. Plum vinegar. I'll send you to the new home to rest first. It won't hurt to sit on the sofa for a while. Please sit down. I looked straight at him. Gina smiled and pulled Juka down. Okay, I'm really fine. You don't need to be so nervous, like a father-to-be. How am I supposed to go to work in the future? My mouth felt bitter, and the tip of my nose couldn't help but tingle. Yes, he's so much like a father-to-be, but it's for someone else's child. Say what you need to say quickly, Eric said with a hint of impatience. I pinched my palm tightly, the stinging pain helping me to stay calm. I don't like having a third person in the new house, especially you, Gina, so I'll help you find a suitable house and nanny. Eric's face darkened. Mengyun, do you have to be so harsh and suspicious? My face was burning, but my heart was terribly cold. Trembling faintly. I'm harsh, I'm suspicious. Is it my fault? I was indeed inconsiderate about the UK incident. Gina simply and neatly apologized to me, saying, I'm sorry, Yunyun, but I can't help it. You're not a mother-to-be, so you don't know how much I value this child. That's why I lost my sense of propriety. Please forgive me. I'm going back to work in a week, so I'll definitely move out before then. Don't worry. I won't bother you for too long. He showed weakness very cleverly, and I saw a hint of dissatisfaction and heartache on Eric's face as he gradually took away what belonged to me. In the evening, Eric went back to the guest room to sleep, and we lay back to back in silence for a long time. In the end, he softened first. Wife, I'm sorry, I just don't know how to handle it. Do you know what he means to me? There was some exhaustion in his voice as he held me and nuzzled my neck and shoulders. Gina is his first love, his childhood sweetheart, and his unattainable ideal, with whom he has had many ups and downs over the years. They are deeply entwined, with almost all the desirable qualities stacked up, so it's normal that she's hard to forget. I don't care about that. What I care about is his attitude towards me and her. Can you choose me no matter what? I asked, choking back tears that I could no longer hold back. He tried to coax me, but couldn't say any sweet words, so he just nodded. Of course, Eric, remember your words. Don't let me down, okay? I hugged him. You are my only wife. Eric gently kissed my forehead. Once the house is found, everything will be back on track. I promise. Please give me some time to adjust. I will adjust, he said to me, and also to himself. So, in the following days, Eric turned down all work and focused on helping Gina find a house and a nanny. And he would also ask for my opinion and we would go see houses together. I gladly helped, and finally saw Gina off. I thought life could return to normal, but a few days later, I saw Gina sitting in Eric's office chair. Wearing his suit and eating the lunch I had brought, she complained in a spoiled manner that the food I made was a bit too heavy, and not good for the baby, and that she wanted to eat what you make next time. I stood in the shadows, clutching the doorknob tightly, like a shameful voyeur, waiting for Eric's judgment of me from the crack. I only cook for my wife. The last time I helped you was because you had a long journey and it was late, so I didn't want to bother him. Just tell the nanny what kind of flavor you want. Eric's tone was calm, with a hint of a smile. Huang Xin snorted, put down her chopsticks, and said, I'm not eating anymore. Sorry, it wasn't made for you anyway. I opened the door and said calmly, Eric is busy with work and has a weak stomach. This menu was specially prepared by a nutritionist, And it's impossible for it to be greasy. I didn't expect to see you here. Eric was clearly stunned, then quickly came over and took my hand. Honey, what are you doing here? I almost never come to the company on my own. The lunch I have prepared is delivered by a driver. Smile. You forgot that I'm accompanying you to a reception tonight, so I came to look at a dress nearby. So Gina works here. Eric squeezed my hand tightly. He's the assistant to my vice president. I met him abroad. He invited me to return to China. It has nothing to do with AK, it's just a coincidence. Gina interrupted him. The woman took off Eric's suit and laid it on top, revealing her beautiful figure. On the surface, pregnancy only added to her charm and beauty. Gina looked at me with a smile that wasn't quite a smile. Yunyun, you really don't need to be suspicious, even if I was AK's ex-girlfriend. We've been separated for many years, and I've been married, divorced, and pregnant. How could I interfere in your marriage with AK? My heart twitched slightly. And I clearly saw provocation and disdain in her expression. Yes, even so, Eric would still hide it from me for her sake and give her the nutritious meals I worked so hard to make, leaving comments unattended without maintenance. And besides, he said he wouldn't interfere because of his own conditions, not because of normal values. Gina walked past me and patted me as if affectionately. You are just the typical rich wife, prone to overthinking. Aku is already busy enough with work. And he still has to coax you. How tiring. He smiled at me, then looked at Eric and playfully blamed. It's just that Aku loves you too much. But I've also heard a saying that doting on your wife brings good fortune. Looks like that's the case. Go out first to the new house. Eric motioned for him to close the door. And only after a few seconds of silence did he prepare to speak. If you're trying to come up with a reason to lie to me, don't bother. I lowered my eyes, my voice trembling. He clearly said he would get back on track. So is this what getting back on track looks like? I didn't want to lie to you. I was just trying to figure out the best way to tell you. It's because I knew you would overthink that I temporarily concealed it. Eric pinched the bridge of his nose. Looking somewhat weary, there were dark circles under his eyes, and his usually meticulously groomed hair was a bit disheveled. He looked haggard, but it didn't diminish the cold, resolute charm of his face. I held back my tears, choked a few times, and finally steadied my voice. It's because of your secrecy that I overthink things. Don't try to reverse the cause and effect. Do guilty people always like to turn the tables like this? If you had told me before bringing Gina back, asked for my opinion, if you could have openly told me that night that he works at your company, I wouldn't be in such a mess. Eric frowned. If I had told you, would you have agreed to him coming to our house? If he had told you he works here, would you not be angry or opposed? Since you wouldn't accept it, what's the point of telling you? I didn't expect Eric's logic to be so strong and unreasonable, although we've only been married for 3 years. It feels like we lost interest in and understanding of each other a long time ago. The meaning is that you should tell me that I am your wife and that I should know. I couldn't control my volume and almost shouted it out. This is not good, it's undignified. And dignity is the only thing I can control in this marriage. Eric's face turned cold, and a hint of displeasure appeared in his narrow, phoenix-shaped eyes that I had never been able to see through. Mengyun. Are you arguing with me? He remained calm, which only made me seem hysterical. He couldn't understand my suffocation, my pain, or the emotional reactions I should have as a wife. It's nothing, I'm leaving, I don't want to stay here any longer. Eric called out to me from behind. Yunyun. We are husband and wife, our marital relationship is my promise to you. I turned the doorknob and left, thinking, a promise is trust and love, not some nominal relationship. Besides, Gina is divorced. So what's the point of marriage? I met Eric when I was in college, when I was entering and he was graduating. At our first meeting, I only remembered the unique black shirt at the freshman ceremony and the face that attracted the attention of all the girls. Eric didn't like white shirts, and black suited him very well, making him appear aloof and indifferent, exuding sex appeal, and that face was the epitome of sexiness. At that time, he and Gina had not yet broken up, but their on-again, off-again relationship was already a legendary story on campus. Goodbye, Eric. It was when I started interning at my family's company. My family also did business, but it couldn't compare to the Jew family back then, let alone the current Eric. Don't be nervous. It doesn't matter if you step on my foot. At the ball, he held my hand and smiled faintly. At that time, he had broken up with Gina, but I didn't know if they would get back together. I uncontrollably followed his steps, but in the end, like Cinderella, I only dared to lower my head to avoid Gina when she appeared. He stood not far away, holding a wine glass and looking at me, with a casual expression, looking without any hostility, because there was no need to care at all. A girl like me isn't considered super pretty, doesn't have an outstanding family background or resume, and even my personality isn't pleasing, like a glass of lukewarm water that hasn't ended yet. Eric saw me panicking and wanting to leave, and asked gently. When he looked up, he saw Gina. His expression turned cold, and he put his arm around my waist and took me to another place. Don't be afraid, you are my dance partner tonight, and no one can replace you. I know. My heart was moved by this moment of tenderness. This moment of heartthrob didn't stop tonight, but instead, every time I met Eric, it would reappear. Later, Gina went abroad, and friends tried to comfort Eric, and I also mingled among them. I didn't want to take advantage of the situation. I just wanted to be with him and see if he was okay. Looking back now, having this kind of thought is also a kind of taking advantage of the situation. Does Eric often get drunk and like me? His eyes were softened by the alcohol, and at that moment, I felt infinite courage and shyness, and nodded with a red face. He smiled, leaned in to kiss me, and asked if I would marry him. I stood there in tears, forgetting how I answered at the time. Maybe I cried and said yes, or maybe I couldn't speak at all. I felt like Cinderella waiting for a happy ending, even after learning that Eric's father pressured him to forget Gina and marry for the sake of alliance, even knowing that Eric didn't really love me that much because I had seen him in love. Even though he was busy with work and his attitude towards me in daily life was indifferent, not remembering various anniversaries, and not being very considerate in life. I still felt happy because he had so many people to choose from, and I got this opportunity. Until today, my years of self-deceiving deep love filter shattered, revealing a floor full of broken mirror shards, each reflecting my forced smile and self-comforting face. It's pathetic, but I brought it on myself. In the evening, the driver picked me up and we arrived at the hotel. Eric was waiting by the roadside, handsome and elegant. Every move filled with the unrestrained spirit of someone in power. I got out of the car, already the perfect Mrs. Jew. In the evening, my husband, Eric, complimented me, saying I looked beautiful, with a hint of laughter in his voice. Pearls suit you very well, I'll get you better ones next time. In the past, I would have tried hard to discern the tenderness that belonged to me in his consistently indifferent and calm voice, turning it into nourishment to support myself. But now I'm thinking that Eric's upbringing wouldn't allow him to be icily indifferent at a time like this, so that tenderness isn't really for me. Just like the tenderness that moved me at the ball that year, I fell for it, and he got back together with Gina a few days later. Thinking of this, I actually wanted to laugh. Turning my head, I saw the other protagonist strolling over arm in arm with the group's vice president. My eyes landed on Gina, and I sighed inwardly. A clash of dresses. Gina also noticed, her brow furrowing slightly before smoothing out, and she said with a smile, "What a coincidence. As those closest to Arc, we're really on the same wavelength." This was both presumptuous and subtly provocative. I couldn't tolerate outsiders being present, and since we were at the hotel entrance, I couldn't say anything, but could only smile and look at Eric. "Really, it seems we have the same taste." He adjusted my shawl for me, his fingers brushing past my pearl earrings. And he lowered his voice to coax me, "You look better in it." A pang of sadness hit me, but I also wanted to laugh. What was there to compare? He had two people in his heart, and I was clearly not the important one. Actually, I'm clear that Eric wouldn't really cheat. But for a man of his status, what does sleeping with someone even count as cheating? If he wanted to, he could turn a mental affair into a physical one at any time, and this kind of ambiguity, for him, is as simple as staying in a hotel for a night after living at home for too long, and then forgetting about it. Eric pulled me in, but Gina wasn't willing. She was being a bit temperamental. "Arc, does your wife have a spare dress?" Let her change into it. Tonight is my formal debut in the workplace since returning to the country, so it's very important. I don't want to wear the same dress as someone else, but I didn't bring a spare. Eric looked at him hesitantly, thought for a moment, and lowered his eyes to look at me. Yoon, why don't you change? I felt a chill run through me. Eric, why me? I'm newly pregnant and won't be able to find a suitable dress for a while. You're different, you have a good figure, you can wear anything. He coaxed me in a low voice, and just as I was about to refuse, Gina opened her mouth with a smile. I'm really sorry, Yoon, but this is also AK's fault. Knowing that he was going to take Yoon out for social events tonight, he didn't bother to prepare earlier. Gina seemed to be speaking up for me at every turn. Which CEO's wife doesn't have a closet full of limited edition items? Only someone like me, without a husband to rely on, would buy ready-to-wear dresses and have them altered. In my heart, Eric never cared about these things. He only knew that I took care of his clothes and jewelry. Every day he woke up, there were ironed clothes in the closet. He never had to pack his luggage for business trips, and he always looked his best at important occasions, but he never paid attention to what I wore. Just like when he praised me for looking good in pearls, he didn't recognize that it was a gift he didn't give me last year for our anniversary. He just told me he would take me to buy better ones in the future, and then just arranged for the secretary to buy them and send them over. As Gina spoke, she sighed, her expression gradually becoming sad and poignant as she stroked her pregnant belly and looked at Eric with tearful eyes. Eric's expression softened, filled with pity and heartache. He immediately called his assistant to take his wife home to change. I won't change. What's wrong with wearing the same dress? I'm the wife. She's the subordinate. Even if we wear the same dress, there won't be any scandalous news. I forced a smile, looking directly at Eric, unable to resist a hint of sarcasm. Or are you just trying to create news? The current wife and the former girlfriend, the white moonlight, wearing the same dress, President Jew. You're really good at training. The wife and the mistress get along so well. Maybe people will guess, who is the wife and who is the mistress? A hush fell around us. Because we were standing at the entrance of the inner hall, there were other trainees and guests nearby, and I hadn't controlled my volume. Eric's face darkened, his black eyes reflecting my mocking expression and fighting spirit, while the others looked stunned. I've always been gentle and accommodating, never once turning on anyone, whether it's company shareholders, Eric's subordinates, or friends. Even my best friend probably wouldn't have imagined I could say such a thing. My mind went blank, a mixture of pleasure and fear in my heart. I had never dealt with such a situation, nor had I ever so freely vented the pent-up grievances. Eric spoke, his voice cold and calm, telling her to take Madam home and not to come back. On what grounds? I am your family member and also a shareholder of the company. Why can't I attend? I felt cold all over, but my cheeks and eye sockets were burning. Gina walked up and took Eric's arm. Mengyun, stop it, okay? Aren't there enough people watching? Tonight's reception is very important. Your family, yes, but that doesn't mean Eric's date has to be you. Besides, you're just a shareholder who gets dividends. You don't know anything about the company, and I'm the one in charge of the new project. Eric didn't look at me again and prepared to go inside with Gina. The vice president hesitated as he passed by. Mengyun, don't act rashly, it won't do you any good. The assistant also wanted to help me. But I was determined to persist today. Ignoring his attempts to stop me, I stepped forward to follow Eric. He turned back to look at me, his face full of anger, but he had to suppress it. In this kind of situation, he couldn't leave me aside while escorting another woman. He had no choice but to pull his arm away and rudely drag me to his side. I staggered, twisting my ankle. Mengyun, this is the last time I'm bringing you out, Eric warned through gritted teeth in my ear. I held back the tears that were about to spill and gave a nonchalant sneer. My lower abdomen was constantly cramping, and the overly strong emotions were also affecting him. I suppressed my unease and followed Eric around with a juice in hand, while Gina was already greeting people with a radiant smile. Even with her pregnant belly, her charm was undiminished. I could sense that everywhere he went, subtle glances would be cast in our direction. In the past, such gazes would have tormented me. But tonight I could only hear the sound of my blood rushing through my veins. I mechanically smiled and greeted. Even if I were just a vase, I would stick closely to Eric, and Eric deliberately didn't introduce or recommend me, treating me like air and ignoring me. I walked quickly in my dress and high heels. It didn't matter, we would be embarrassed together. If it was a joke, we would be laughed at together. But I hadn't worn such high heels in a long time. Finally, I let go of him and found a place to rest. The green leaves blocked the figures chatting in twos and threes, and the sound of discussion entered my ears. Eric's wife is really tolerant, coming with Gina and deliberately wearing the same dress. I really don't know what he's thinking, exactly. Everyone knows about Eric and Gina's past. Now it's obvious they're trying to force someone to step down. Eric and his wife have always had a SOSO relationship. If Gina hadn't gone abroad and the Jew family hadn't pressured him into marriage, how could Eric have found such a woman from a humble background? It was also that divorce would be easy in the future. Eric's wife flaunts their love in her WeChat moments every day, showing it to herself. How pathetic. Can't be. Isn't Gina pregnant? Eric can still stomach that. How do you know who the father of the child in her belly is? Right. But, even if she's pregnant, Gina is still better than his wife. Right, she can't compete in terms of ability or family background, she's just a vase, and not a discreet one. She clung tightly to Eric all night. Her face was so ugly. TSK TSK TSK, which current girlfriend can look good when an old flame returns? You all don't know. They almost got into a fight at the door just now. I dazedly touched my face. So it turns out I look so awful that outsiders can see through my disguise at a glance. It's so hard to deal with. I sat in the corner looking for Nye. After listening to these people's discussions, the love and affection I thought existed only in my circle of friends, the pretense I painstakingly maintained, it turns out others have long known it's fake, only I still firmly believe in its existence. I couldn't help but laugh. The corner of my mouth touched a hint of coldness. I reached out and touched it, realizing my face was full of tears. Tonight is just too ridiculous. I looked towards the center of the room. Gina had already returned to Eric's side. Under the starlight, the two looked very well matched. The music started. Eric took her hand and slowly moved his feet, embracing her in a simple dance, and then carefully protected her belly. I stared blankly at the heartbeat from the dance party back then. It should end tonight. The misplaced trajectory is finally about to return to normal. I got up and went to the bathroom. After tidying myself up, I asked the driver to take me back to my parents' house, and tiredly pushed open the door, only to be greeted by my parents' cold faces. They were sitting on the sofa, seemingly waiting for me. I was stunned for a moment, and realized that the driver must have reported to Eric. And Eric must have greeted my parents in advance. It's really hard on him to have to socialize, take care of Gina, and still tattle on me. I have been strictly disciplined since I was a child, and I am most afraid of not doing well on exams and not meeting my parents' requirements. As long as they give me a slightly cold look, I get terribly scared. But today I am really too tired. I lowered my eyes and softly begged my parents, "Can we talk about anything tomorrow? Talk about it tomorrow. I didn't know you had such great courage now. You dare to go crazy outside and embarrass Eric." My dad's loud voice startled me. I stopped in my tracks, my whole body trembling. Since I went to college, I've been subjected to physical punishment. When I was little, I was beaten. But when I grew up, it was standing at attention or various torturous but non-harmful tricks, so I really used to think of Eric as a savior. Because of him, my dad was much nicer to me. But now he also forces me to go back. My mom is persuading me, and my dad is also trying to persuade me, and so on. Don't be confused. Which rich person doesn't play around? He hasn't really cheated or had an illegitimate child. What else do you want besides love and bread? Of course, you should choose bread. You're not from an ordinary family. Don't be so naive. A wave of nausea rose in my chest, and I couldn't help but gag twice. My mom was stunned, then pleasantly surprised. What's wrong? Are you pregnant? I pounded my chest hard, suppressing the nausea, my eyes red-rimmed, and denied in a hoarse voice. No. My mother sat back down, somewhat disappointed. Sigh, you two have been married for 3 years now. How come there's still no sign of anything? Did you even take the tonics I gave you? I didn't want to say any more about this. raised my leg to go upstairs, and stopped. Seeing that I wasn't listening to reason, my dad got even angrier and smashed the ashtray. "What tantrum are you throwing? Can't I control you anymore? You go home and apologize to Eric right now, stop acting up, and don't even think about a divorce, or you won't have a room in this house." My mom pulled at him from the side. "Oh, Laromeng, why are you talking to your daughter like that?" In that moment, I really felt like the world had abandoned me, a roaring sound in my ears, my heart aching terribly. I stood there, tears streaming down my face without me realizing it. And I murmured, "I don't want this. I'm not choosing between love and bread. What I want is loyalty. Even if he doesn't love me, a direct divorce would be a kind of loyalty to Gina. Even if he had said it was just a matter of getting what each needed when he got married, he wants both, and I don't want that." My mother couldn't bear it and felt sorry for me, so she softened her voice and said, "But Yunyun, Eric really didn't cheat." My father shook off my mother, slumped back into the sofa, and sighed heavily. "If you have the ability, find a man more powerful than Eric, and I won't care. You have such a good life. Why are you doing this? You don't have the ability to manage the company well, and your father is only this capable, if we don't rely on Eric. Are you planning to live on the northwest wind in the future?" I returned to the home I shared with Eric, shuttling between two homes in the middle of the night, yet unable to find a shred of support or peace of mind. Eric wasn't home. Numb, I washed up, went to bed, and lay down. I was terribly dizzy, and my stomach hurt, but I didn't want to bother with it. In my dream, I returned to the dance. I watched from the sidelines, watching myself, full of joy, shyness, and nervousness. Watching Eric's gaze constantly drift towards Gina, half asleep, I felt someone wiping away my tears. It was Eric. He withdrew his hand and turned on the light. "What's wrong?" I glanced at the time. It was late at night. And Eric hadn't changed his clothes yet, as if he had just arrived home. "What are you doing here?" I asked. The man frowned, displeased. "This is my home. Where else would I be if not here? If Gina weren't pregnant, would you still come back?" I asked with a faint expression. Eric frowned. "Mengyun, what exactly are you doing? You're not happy that I'm back. You just have to see something between Gina and me, and only when you've confirmed that I cheated are you satisfied, right?" He got up and went to the guest room. I huddled under the covers, my heart ice cold. It's really no fun. Even without Gina, this kind of marriage is really no fun. Eric started giving me the cold shoulder. I no longer messaged her as frequently as before. I didn't care whether she came home or not. I instructed the nanny to take care of her daily life. Originally, I didn't need to do everything myself, but I used to think it was a wife's duty. What's hard to decide is whether or not to abort the baby in my womb. If I bring up divorce now, Eric and her family won't agree. Should I tell Eric? Then it would be even more impossible to get a divorce, and I don't want Eric to change her mind for the sake of the child, which would be even more unfair to the child. My hesitation lies in the fact that if I could get a divorce and the child could take my last name, I would study hard, be a good mother, hire someone to nurture him, and take over my family's business in the future. If Eric were my child, I would be very disappointed. Fortunately, I didn't hesitate for long. After a 2-week Cold War, Eric was the first to give in. He arranged for his assistant to buy me many limited editions and gradually started coming home earlier. But he and I had nothing to say to each other. Eric felt like he was being met with coldness despite his enthusiasm, and he was confused and impatient. "Mengyun, what will make you happy? What's wrong with me?" I looked up from my phone and asked, "What's wrong? I come home from work, and you act like you don't even see me. I'm your husband. Can't you even say a word to me?" Eric became emotional, and I watched him quietly. "Only now do you realize that we have nothing to say to each other? If you had opened our chat window, you would have realized that we had nothing to say to each other a long time ago. You would rather have your secretary and assistant contact me, instead of sending me messages or replying to me personally. You are my husband. But do you even remember what day it was when you brought Gina back?" Eric was stunned. He couldn't remember for a moment, and opened his phone to check, but the calendar wouldn't mark my birthday or our anniversary. I know he was searching through emails with his assistant, and just like that, my husband finally remembered what day it was. and his face was uncharacteristically embarrassed. Eric took a deep breath, softened his voice, apologized again, and promised gifts. "I'll have someone deliver them to you tomorrow. You know I'm busy and never pay attention to these dates. I don't even celebrate my own birthday. Why should I have someone deliver them to you? Am I your secretary? Or your assistant's wife? You don't celebrate your birthday, but why don't you refuse when I organize your birthday banquet every year? Why don't you tell me not to do it again in the future?" I retorted. Eric, realizing he was in the wrong, didn't argue with me anymore. This rare second day off, he took a day to accompany me shopping as compensation. When we passed a baby store, I couldn't help but take a few extra glances. Eric asked, scanning his eyes over, "What's wrong? What's so interesting about a baby store?" When he said that, I insisted on going in. Now I find Eric annoying, and even listening to him speak makes me feel suffocated. The serious look on my face made the man chuckle. He stood next to me and lowered his voice. "Even if you want to compete for my affection, you don't have to pretend to be pregnant." I almost couldn't believe these words came from Eric. Compete for his affection. He thought my anger, Cold War. All these behaviors were to compete with Gina for his affection. Perhaps from the moment he didn't reject my advances, his closeness, his decision to marry me, I should have seen his true nature. But I didn't. So now this is my retribution. Seeing my grim face, Eric frowned and asked, "Are you pregnant? If I were pregnant, would you have an abortion?" I clutched my bag tightly, Eric's gaze falling on the cute little clothes in front of him, and a hint of a smile flashed across his lips. But he suppressed it. "Now is not a good time to have children, and it's not because of the new house," he quickly added, "it's because I'm quite busy." I stared at him intently, and in the end, I went out without saying anything. His assistant brought him his phone. President Ju answered it. And after only a few words, his face was filled with anxiety. "Don't be afraid, I'll go over there and call an ambulance." "No, don't be afraid, I'll be there soon." He hung up the phone, asked his assistant for the car keys, and left immediately. I shouted to stop him. "You're going to get Shin-jo, you'll affect the fetus." He hurried back to my ear, a buzzing sound, took a few quick steps, grabbed her hem, and blurted out, "I'm pregnant too." I didn't think, I just announced it at this moment. Eric's birthday. I didn't say it because I didn't want my child to be announced at such a terrible moment. What's ridiculous is that it's not much better now. All because of Eric's favoritism. Eric was stunned for a moment, his eyes sweeping over my still flat abdomen, gradually gathering disappointment, and he pried my hand open, shook his head. "Mengyun, can you please not use such underhanded tactics? Shin-jo is further along in her pregnancy, and if anything happens to her, it's 2 lives at stake. Besides, we haven't even been intimate during this time." My chest felt heavy, my body alternating between chills and fever. And I couldn't help but tremble. "I really am pregnant. I wanted to tell you on my birthday. Please believe me." Eric's eyes turned cold, and he interrupted me impatiently. "Enough, Mengyun. When did you become so petty? You said you were suspicious because I didn't tell you. Now I've told you. What about you? Have you become magnanimous and tolerant? I don't want to argue with you. Take a taxi back." After saying that, he shook me off and strode away. I stumbled and fell to the ground. The assistant rushed over to help me up. "Madam, let's go to the hospital." I gritted my teeth, my voice with a sob. To the hospital, when the risk of a possible miscarriage was in front of me. I really felt that I didn't want to lose this child. By the same token, when the choice of divorce appeared, I knew I really wanted to end it. I made an appointment with the abortion doctor and said that this pregnancy was unstable from the start. I asked the doctor if it was because of my emotional ups and downs recently. The doctor explained that short-term emotional changes are more likely to affect the mother's health and sperm quality. Then it's Eric's problem. He's already 30. During my miscarriage, Eric didn't come home or contact me. It's not like I don't have ways to find out. Now everyone in this circle is waiting to gossip about the 3 of us. As long as I show a little desire to know, they will pretend to share. That day at the company, Gina was just gently pushed by Ju, but everyone panicked as if the ambulance had arrived early. Anyone who didn't know the situation would have thought she was Ju's own child. I heard Gina's ex-husband is coming back to the country soon. Apparently because they didn't agree on the division of assets, Ju hired the best legal team to help her with the lawsuit. I'm telling you. Ju even privately consulted many trust institutions to purchase assets for Gina's child from birth. Ju personally took care of Gina at the hospital, more dutiful than a stay-at-home dad. These things, and more, were sent to my phone every day while I was away from the company. I looked at this information as I entered the operating room. After being discharged from the hospital, I found a lawyer to draft a divorce agreement and went home. I want a divorce. Eric is making a scene over Gina's pregnancy, and everyone in our circle knows about it, including my parents. My dad doesn't look happy, Eric doesn't respect me, and this is embarrassing for him too. A divorce is not an option. If you're smart, you should use this to control him. My dad still disagrees. My mother was silent. I smiled, and when I opened it, my parents were shocked and almost fainted. Abortion, abortion. My mother clutched her chest in a mix of shock and anger. How could you open it? My father probably couldn't say anything, staring in shock at my pale face. I was still smiling. Wasn't that what Dad said? Find an even richer man than Eric. How can I find one with a child? The living room fell into dead silence. I picked up my bag. I know I've listened to you all my life. The only thing I didn't listen to was getting involved with Eric. You were against me being a simp back then, but I didn't listen. Later, I married Eric, which was considered a good outcome at the time. Now you don't want me to get divorced, and I don't plan to listen, and I think there will be a good outcome, I emphasized. I just hope that you, as my parents, will stop interfering. Dad, I looked at him. I'm going to seduce an even richer man. Don't worry. My father's face flushed red, his eyes flickering, as if he was choked. I'm leaving. I'm going directly to Eric with the divorce agreement. He's not at the company, not at the hospital, but at home, which surprises me. When I get home, Gina is also there. Eric is cleaning, and she's sitting on the sofa eating fruit, which isn't too surprising. When he sees me come back, Eric frowns and asks, "Where have you been? The house looks like it hasn't been cleaned in days. There's a layer of dust. Where's the nanny?" I stand in the entryway, holding my bag, and inexplicably want to laugh, so I actually laugh out loud. "What are you laughing at?" Eric says, increasingly displeased. I'm laughing at how similar this scene is to that day. I wipe the tears from the corners of my eyes. So you finally understand that the person who doesn't report in, doesn't respond, and isn't home waiting will complain, will worry, will feel uncomfortable. Eric is stunned. Gina puts down the fruit plate and is about to offer some hypocritical reconciliation. I interrupt him before he can speak. "Shut up, save it." Gina's eyes flash with anger and resentment, and she looks at Eric as if she's been greatly humiliated. "Eric, didn't you tell Mengyun? Or should I leave?" "No, you stay put." Eric came to his senses, his brow furrowed, and he turned his head to continue lecturing me that my new home would have its due date in 2 months. During this time, she would be living in our house, and I also found a nurse who will arrive tomorrow. "You tidy up the guest room. You can fire the previous nanny. Just hire a few maternity matrons. You women understand this aspect better." I smiled wryly, walked over, took out the divorce agreement and handed it to Eric. "If you sign, I'll make the arrangements." Eric, after seeing it clearly, his expression turned cold. "Mengyun, you don't need to threaten or manipulate me with divorce. I don't fall for that. I didn't threaten or manipulate you. Aren't you asking me to arrange care for Gina? If you sign, I will definitely hire 10 gold medal maternity matrons. You know, good maternity matrons are not readily available on the market. Anyone you find, even a gold medal one, might have bad intentions." Eric's dark eyes stared at me for a long while, then he gave a mocking sneer. "Is this ever going to end? Ever since we came back from the new house, you've been picking on me, finding fault with everything, constantly jealous and making baseless accusations. First, you faked a pregnancy. And now you dare to mention divorce." Gina, who was on the side, looked surprised. "Faked a pregnancy? Oh, that was the day you called me." Eric pushed my hand away, threw the floor scrubber aside, and sat down calmly. Gina looked at me thoughtfully for a few moments. Then slowly tried to mediate. It's all my fault, it's really just a misunderstanding, not worth you two getting a divorce over. Mengyun, you two should talk things over properly, don't end up like me. Divorced and pregnant, disliked wherever I go. As she said this, she gave a bitter laugh, and Eric quickly pulled the blanket over her. No one dislikes you, don't think like that, it's not good for the baby. So, Mengyun, don't mention divorce so easily, it's very hurtful, and even if you do divorce, it's a troublesome matter. Property is a problem. You see, my ex-husband is already in China. Gina sighed again. Eric was silent for a moment, and when he spoke again, his voice was a little deeper. Don't worry, I will help you take care of it. You won't lose a penny that's yours. It's ridiculous. I'm standing here with a divorce agreement, and my husband is nervous about a divorce lawsuit for another woman. Why don't you take a look at the property division here first, and see if it needs to be adjusted? I directly shoved the agreement in their faces. Eric may not look at it, but Gina definitely will. Sure enough, he took the agreement. Eric's hand that was about to push away hung in the air, and finally he retracted it, lowered his eyes and looked at it with her. Mengyun, did you jump straight to the key industries? Gina raised her eyes slightly in surprise. I don't want much, and there's not really much to cut off with Eric. Although my father relies on him, we've only been married for a little over 3 years, so there hasn't been much cooperation, and the Jew family doesn't really want to associate with my family. They never intended to choose us. I was Eric's choice. Eric looked at me with a complicated expression. For a moment, he seemed like he wanted to say something, but in the end, he chuckled and tossed the agreement back. I don't agree to a divorce, so let's separate first. I nodded. I wasn't expecting it to go so smoothly anyway. My luggage was already packed and shipped. Separate. I don't agree. %. Eric refused again. I subconsciously held back my anger, but then I thought, I don't need to hold back now, so I directly cursed. You, what gives you the right to disagree? What grounds do you have to disagree? Yes, you are my legal husband, but does that mean I have to agree just because you don't agree to a separation? If a legal identity is so useful, then as your legal wife, I demand that you immediately send Gina away and never contact her again. Do you agree? Eric was first angry, then revealed a knowing and certain look, and said, Mengyun, you are just jealous and throwing a tantrum. Fine, you want to separate, then leave. I don't have time to take care of you these days. How funny. I laughed a few times. Who exactly is taking care of whom in this family? My eyes were red, and I stared at Eric almost viciously, wanting to tear off his sanctimonious face. Eric suddenly stood up and said coldly, You leave now. I walked closer, picked up the divorce agreement, and slammed it on the table. I've already signed it. Eric's pupils shrank. Eric, you never actually loved me, and now my pain is the retribution for taking advantage of the situation back then. I accept it. I looked straight at him. We've only been married for 3 years in total, while there aren't too many complications. Let's part ways amicably. I left to see Ju's parents and said 3 sentences. I was pregnant with Eric's child, but I had an abortion. He doesn't know that Gina is pregnant with Eric's child, and he is taking care of her at home now. This is my divorce agreement, and I have signed it. The divorce agreement fell to the ground, revealing Mengyun's signature. Eric looked down at it, expressionless, and finally stepped on it. Childish, ridiculous, and stupid, he coldly criticized. Unaware of how awful his face looked, Gina hesitated to speak, her eyes dim. When she spoke again, she was very considerate of him, saying that Mengyun was from a humble background and couldn't understand him, which was understandable. She told him not to take it to heart too much, and that it might be good for them to cool off for a few days. However, she added that she wouldn't disturb him any longer. It does seem inappropriate from this perspective. I didn't realize he would care so much. Do you work? It won't do without a woman in the house. Let me find you a housekeeper to at least do some cleaning. Eric looked up and agreed, thinking he sounded calm and composed. I'm putting you to a lot of trouble, but it's settled then. You're staying here to rest, and you're not allowed to leave. I want to take good care of you. Gina smiled at him, picked up her phone, and started looking for someone. Eric sat to one side, his whole body tense, listening to Gina's methodical arrangements. Forcing himself to relax, thinking that divorce could control him. What a joke, he had never gotten anything from her. As for Meng-yoon's significance and presence in this family, it was nothing more than managing household affairs, just trivial family matters, as long as he was willing to spend money. A housekeeper could do it perfectly well. Moreover, Meng-yoon loved him. He knew, the look in her eyes when she was younger couldn't deceive anyone. Meng-yoon wouldn't be willing to give up just like that, and Meng-jo wouldn't let him run wild like this. Thinking this, Eric gradually calmed down. After the cleaning service arrived, he began to personally decorate a mother and baby room. She suddenly thought of the day Meng-yoon asked her what she would do if she got pregnant. Actually, his answer was also sincere. He currently has no interest in having children, and they can wait another year. In short, it's convenient for Meng-yoon to have children before he turns 30, so they can treat it as practice for now. Things didn't go as smoothly as Eric had imagined. The next day, his parents came to the door, saying they wanted to see their grandson. Eric was helpless. Meng-yoon wasn't even pregnant yet. "What grandson are you here to see? Isn't Gina's baby yours?" Ju-fu asked with a sneer. "How is that possible?" Eric frowned. "I wouldn't do something like that, just so you know," Ju's father said in a deep voice, ordering Eric to sign the divorce papers, saying they should have divorced long ago. "What's it like for that Gina to live with you? Don't think that just because he's back, you can have something happen with him again." Eric impatiently waved away the agreement. "What nonsense are you talking about? Meng-yoon and I are like rabbits. We don't need you to worry about us. Can you handle it well? Do you know that Meng-yoon had an abortion behind your back?" He was serious. Ju's father threw out several photos and reports, confirming Meng-yoon's admission to the obstetrics department and proof of abortion. Eric couldn't believe it, clutching the paper tightly, and exclaimed in a daze, "How could it be?" He immediately called Meng-yoon, who hadn't blocked him. And the first thing she said when she answered was whether he had signed the papers. "Meng-yoon, how dare you abort the child? Who gave you the right?" Eric questioned. The woman's voice was calm and indifferent. "Before it's born, it's just an embryo, a piece of flesh growing in my body, so naturally I have the right to handle it. I hope the next time you call, it's to arrange a meeting at the Civil Affairs Bureau." After saying that, the woman hung up. At this moment, Eric truly realized that Meng-yoon was really going to divorce him. He grabbed the photos and wanted to go to Meng-yoon, when Gina came back and was startled by his ferocious expression. "Ack. What's wrong with you?" In Gina's eyes, Eric saw himself looking very undignified, as if a bucket of ice water had been poured over him, and he gradually calmed down. "Good, very good. If Meng-yoon wants a divorce, then so be it." The man suppressed his anger and signed, asking his assistant to send it off. Roaring for someone to make an appointment at the Civil Affairs Bureau, everything proceeded quickly, and they met again. Outside the Civil Affairs Bureau, he thought, "Meng-yoon, you're ruthless." The woman didn't speak, not even offering a glance, only loudly urging Eric to restrain his emotions. Feeling extremely indignant and aggrieved, in just a month, he would see how much the woman would regret this. Since they're divorced, the Meng family doesn't count as her married family anymore. It's only natural that they would no longer cooperate. It's a pity he's busy managing a big collaboration recently and can't free up his time. Eric threw himself into work, seemingly forgetting his promise to take good care of Gina, only allowing her to live at home. Having a woman in the house makes it feel more like a home. But there are also differences. When Meng-yoon was there, the house was quiet and comfortable, and the servants wouldn't appear when he came home. Meng-yoon would take care of her personally. Now there are 2 live-in nannies and a housekeeper. Even though the space is large, it feels cramped and uncomfortable. But this is nothing. Eric isn't home for long. She can tolerate it. These are just trivial matters, like a small lump under a soft mattress, irritating. But she can bear it. Eric was unwilling to admit that his quality of life had significantly declined after the divorce. No one can't live without someone else. If this batch of nannies isn't good, he'll just replace them with the next. He was busy attending various banquets, and the well-cared-for Wei gradually began to protest. After one banquet, Eric returned home, and Gina was still awake, instructing the servants to take care of him. Eric was not as drunk as he seemed. He lay on the sofa and told the servants to leave. Gina walked over, and Ching helped him massage his forehead. The man sighed deeply and said in a hoarse voice, Ching, make me a hangover soup. My stomach hurts again. Gina paused. But I'm heavily pregnant and can't do it. Eric breathed evenly, opened his eyes, and said, I forgot, go to sleep. He sat in the living room for more than an hour before returning to his room. Soon, Gina gave birth to a son, and Ju's father once again demanded that he send the mother and son away. What does it look like living in your house? Eric also didn't want the house to be noisy. Gina pleaded, okay, can you let me stay until after my confinement period? I can't move around easily. Eric thought, then I'll wait another month. This waiting continued until Gina had completed 2 months of postpartum care and still hadn't moved out. They were like a strangely assembled family of 3. Eric would play with the baby, and Gina would have the maid prepare food that was easy on Eric's stomach. At another drinking session, Eric saw Meng-yun. The woman seemed to have become more beautiful. She was the female companion of a rising star in the circle, and it was said that she had been her childhood sweetheart before going abroad for further studies. Eric's gaze followed her, and he himself didn't know what he was looking at. Was he expecting to meet Meng-yun's eyes? Someone came over for social niceties, blocking his view. By the time the greetings were over, Meng-yun had already gone to the other side. Eric suddenly felt a little uncomfortable and stifled, as if he had lost something. The man suddenly came back to his senses, gulping down a mouthful of wine. Just a woman he didn't particularly like, so why feel lost? If Gina hadn't gone abroad, Meng-yun would never have caught his eye. Eric drank glass after glass, but became more and more sober. When he got home, he called for Gina, telling the woman to come out and keep it down, as the child had just fallen asleep. Make me a bowl of sobering soup, the man said. Gina turned to call the servant, but Eric stopped her. I want you to make it for me. I don't know how. The woman shook her head. You can learn. It's not hard. Don't you love me? Why can't you? Eric asked. His face flushed. Gina frowned, disgusted by this Eric. This Eric was no different from any other pot-bellied, vulgar man. Eric, not getting an answer, asked again, his eyes bloodshot. Say it, he said, inexplicably angry. Gina shook off his hand, lost and aggrieved. Eric, cooking and washing his hands, that's what you used to do for me. I told you I wouldn't. Don't you love me? How could you make me work so hard? You never used to make me do things like this. After saying that, Gina went back to her room. Eric leaned blankly on the sofa. Then why would Meng-yun do it? Because he loves her, and he is the subject of this love, because he is so stupid that he doesn't care whether his love for her is more or less. That night, Eric sat in the living room all night, and for the first time, he felt regret. He shouldn't have gotten divorced. Once this thought arose, it couldn't be stopped. Eric began to loathe the children and the nanny at home, and even didn't want to face Gina anymore. He asked them to leave. Gina couldn't believe it. Eric, you're kicking me out. I have nothing to do with you, and I'm not the father of your child. You have no right to live here, Eric suddenly said. Do I need to remind you that you were the one who dumped me and went abroad? Do you think Eric, am so incompetent that I would eat this recycled grass? Gina moved out with her face flushed in embarrassment. Eric had the housekeepers clean the house inside and out, making sure to remove anything related to motherhood and babies. The housekeeper carefully handed him a report found in a crevice. Eric glanced at it and felt a chill run through him. It was a greeting card congratulating him on becoming a father. Below it was a photo of a delivery manifest dated on Meng-yun's birthday, their wedding anniversary, the day he brought Gina home. That day, Eric understood. He ran so quickly, he realized she wanted to tell him so early on. The man recklessly ran out to find Meng-yun, desperate to see her. Meng-yun appeared very calm, even seeming dazed and confused for a moment when he eagerly mentioned the greeting card. Greeting card. Eric described it in detail, and Meng-yun realized, oh, I forgot about that. So, what's the matter? The man, who was so anxious he could barely speak, paused, suddenly speechless. What could he possibly say? Eric tried to speak several times but couldn't make a sound. The emotions that had accumulated over the months exploding all at once, stuck in his throat. He felt like he was dying. Finally, he managed to utter, Yun, I regret it. I also want to thank you. Eric and Meng-yoon spoke at the same time. Meng-yoon interrupted him without hesitation. "Thank you, there's no need for any lingering feelings. Let me start my new life in peace and quiet." Eric trembled all over as he watched the newly rich man walk over, gently take the woman's hand, and shake it coquettishly, asking her to leave with him. Meng-yoon chong. Eric nodded and walked away with the newly rich man with a smile. Eric stood still. Meng-yoon's every move, every smile was imprinted in his retina. He murmured in prayer, "Don't be like this. Don't show that expression. You don't like him. You don't love him." He couldn't even say the words he regretted. Meng-yoon didn't care about him at all, discarding him like a bag of trash. Eric could be sure that even if he went to pester them, he wouldn't be able to make Meng-yoon waver. He would always treat him so indifferently. Without even a hint of annoyance or fatigue, Eric ran away. After a few days of drunken revelry, he started sending money to the Meng family. Everyone laughed at him for trying to please his in-laws even after the divorce. Eric didn't care. When Meng-yoon got married and had children, he sent generous gifts. Meng-yoon sent him a message, "Mr. Ju, an embryo not expected by its father is not worth that much money." Eric knew that he didn't even have the right to give money anymore. He restrained himself a lot, but often stared blankly when he got home. And sometimes he would suddenly lose focus while working, recalling the bits and pieces of his time with Meng-yoon. The thoughts of regret grew like sprouts, growing from within his body. Is it serious? Actually, it's not that serious, just absent-mindedness and memories. But every time, Eric has to feel a thorough regret, forcing her vision to blur and making it difficult to breathe. The man gradually became thin, and no one would ever take care of her body so carefully again. The nutritionist can only cook and give advice, but can't force him to eat. That is the right of a wife. Eric couldn't stand this torment and began to develop his career externally. Leaving this city, this trick seemed effective, and the increased workload forced him to concentrate more. But he couldn't control his dreams. Every time he woke up, he had to pinch his palm to endure the regret and pain of losing Meng-yoon. It was like a needle hidden in the mattress, suddenly stabbing him hard. And those sprouts also absorbed the nutrients from his body. The results of his physical examinations were getting worse and worse, and his rashly expanded business territory was also unsatisfactory. He had to run around, work his heart out, and finally suffered from both physical and mental oppression. Eric's cancer was discovered at a late stage. And he was not even 40 years old. Lying in the hospital bed, Eric suddenly thought of a saying, "Spoiling your wife brings good fortune, and valuing your wife leads to harmony." It turns out it's true. The end of the story. Thank you for watching. Well, that's all for today's story. If you like this video, please subscribe. We will continue to update more exciting stories and look forward to seeing you next time.